Welcome to B-Flow Sessions, the podcast where we help you find and stay in the flow on the water and in life. I'm your host, Brad Burton. Join me as I sit down with paddlers, athletes, and adventurers who are all seeking the flow. B-Flow Sessions is brought to you by our friends at Pucon Kayak Retreat. Are you dreaming of a Chilean whitewater escape this winter? Picture turquoise rapids, warm sunny days, and world-class rivers for every skill level, all based out of a riverside retreat built by paddlers for paddlers. If that sounds like your kind of winter, then Pucon Kayak Retreat is the place. To learn more or to book your dream kayak trip, reach out to me directly at bflowkayak@gmail.com and I'll help you get connected. B-Flow Sessions is powered by Dagg Kayaks. Wherever there's water, Dagg Kayaks will help you find your flow. Team-tested, paddler-proven designs for all paddlers and all water. And thanks to our partners at Sawyer Paddles, Stolquist PFDs, and Level 6 Gear for keeping us in the flow. Welcome to the next episode of B-Flow Sessions. As always, I'm your host, Brad Burton, and in this episode, in this session, I am joined by one of my dearest friends in the kayaking world, a man who took a chance on me when I was just a young kayaker. He said, here's a bus, here's some keys, here's like 10 young freestyle kayakers. Take them all over out west and train them, coach them, take them down class 5 and drive them around the country. I have no idea what he was thinking to hire me to do that, but I'm glad he did, and I'm glad he's with us here on B-Flow Sessions. David Hughes of Pucon Kayak Retreat. David, welcome to B-Flow Sessions.
Thanks, Brad. Great to be here. How's it going?
That's going great. I'm so glad to finally get you convinced to be on B-Flow Sessions with me. So if anybody doesn't know David, most people know him today in the kayaking world as the owner of Pucon Kayak Retreat. He has just a beautiful place there in Pucon, Chile, runs trips all over the Pucon area. But David has been in the kayaking world for well over 30 years. He was a competitive kayaker. He's been a teacher. He's been a coach, a mentor to a lot of people. And, in his prime was one of the best kayakers in the world and is still very, very involved in the kayaking world. And we're going to hear all about his journey. So again, Dave, thanks for being here.
Great to be here.
So tell us, we always start off, every discussion with, how did you find your flow in kayaking?
Great question. And I think I have a unique introduction to whitewater. Well, I tubed with family like at 10 years old, 12 years old, the Hiwassee River. But really, I was in college and I saw on the job board an advertisement for a raft guide on the Ocoee River. And that sounded super cool. And so I called them, and the manager of the company, John Miller, it was High Country Outfitters on the Ocoee.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, bring some river shoes, a swimsuit, a towel, and show up on Saturday, and we'll take you down the river. And if you like it, you can go into our next training round. And I showed up, and there was, Tracy Clapp was the big kayaker there, and he had a bushy John Lennon beard and duct tape on his glasses, and it was full on, it was just a world I hadn't experienced. It was the river world, but I got back to my friends after that weekend. I was like, dude, there's hippies up there, and so I got into the raft guide rotation. And, man, I started having dreams about stormy nights on the river and, like, a canyon with clouds and lightning striking and the raft moving back and forth. I totally fell in love with the river and the training with it. And it's like, so that was the start. And, soon enough, like the next year, so I became a trip leader in the next year. And, the next year, the guides were going out on some like roll sessions. And to me, that was super far, like, it's like going to the moon.
Right.
And they started going out. And I was like, can I go with you guys on the roll session? And so I was a Division I wrestler, and I was wrestling, and I was like 3% body fat.
Right.
And prime of my life. And so I went out and picked up the roll right away. And
Sure.
just kept going, and I was just borrowing people's boats just to go to the lake. And then at the Ocoee Rodeo, I bought a Euro Kayak Cypher. And that kayak was totally the wrong boat for me. It was too big. It was super heavy. It had a cone on the front that was solid plastic that screwed in. Super heavy. And it's like, but if you pitoned it, it wasn't breaking.
Right.
And once I had that boat, I was going to the river every day after guiding. And literally, so funny thing, I learned as a beginner how to kayak on the Ocoee.
Wow.
Because I had swam, part of our training, this guy John Miller, who ended up being my mentor, and he was just this super philosophical approach to guide training. Gave a really long and intense guide training. But we had to swim every rapid on the river. We had to swim into double suck and do live baits. And I was digging all of it. That was just my jam. So we swam every rapid, so I wasn't afraid of any of the rapids, and I knew how to swim rapids, and I knew all the sneak lines, so I knew the river really well because I'd been guiding on it for 2 years.
Sure.
So I was swimming like once or twice a day, and I would just go rescues and then go out with any crew I could.
Right. And is that was like mid 90s or early 90s?
Early 90s. The progression, there's a little bit more of a progression. Second or third, maybe the third year, I bought a video camera and 5 VCRs, and I started a video boater business where you race the rafts, go and videotape the rafts, commentate, what they're doing. Here comes Mike Barker and the crew and everything, and then I'd put music over the top of it. I took out a Circuit City credit card, bought this equipment, and now I was making like 3 to 5 times what I was making as a raft guide, and got to set my own schedule. Right. So I'd work 2 trips a day, and like you'd max it was $25 a day, and if you work 3 trips, you get $75. And so with the video boat business, I could do $300 or $400 in a day.
Sure.
So, and the training, you're racing.
Right.
Raft, and you race and you go to the best spots like Slice and Dice. You get one shot at a pirouette, double trouble, hellhole, all the spots, and you get like, if you're way ahead of them, you get a few shots at a few rides. And pirouettes was the thing at the time.
Sure.
Slice and Dice and Flipper were giving up great pirouettes.
Yeah.
So I got really good. It was 2 times a day training.
But then you were also in college at the time, and what were you studying in school?
Originally I was choosing between education to coach wrestling, and with secondary education and natural sciences and business. So I chose to coach wrestling, and I'll mention this because this is the proudest achievement of my life. Was I was voted the AAA Georgia Wrestling Coach of the Year in 1998. So super proud of that, and so I chose the education path, and now I'm in the business path.
But that education path took you to some experiences to be able to use that in the kayaking world with like Adventure Quest, right?
Yeah. Do you want me to fast forward to that?
Well, you take us down whatever avenue you want, man. Yeah,
that was cool. So I was coaching wrestling, and I would go at one of the hottest spots on the river was the train at Hellhole, and
sure.
So I was the biggest Hellhole troll during those days, and I really didn't have high country. I listened to your interview with Keith Lyles, and he worked at high country with me and actually video boated for me some, but he went on to whatever Mark Lyle's company was,
Sunburst.
And they had a really good paddling community, and high country didn't have that. But I started meeting guys that were sponsored, Andy Bedingfield and Chip Whitworth. So I moved over to Outland, and those guys worked there, and they were getting sponsored. So I really wanted to become, pro kayaker, sponsored, which is a unicorn, a fantasy in my kind of at that time. And I remember going into Roger Scott's and asking if he would sponsor me. And he's like, why would I do that? And I didn't have an answer. I just didn't get it, you know?
Yeah.
So there were these two kids from Nashville, Nate McDade, and I can't remember the other kid's name right now, that were going to this high school for kayakers that traveled around the world and trained called Adventure Quest. And I started asking them about it, and they're like, dude, that would be the coolest teaching job ever. It's like, we just got back from New Zealand, and we did this, this, and this. And I was like, yeah, if you could get it, that would be awesome. And so I studied that school, and they didn't have any certified teachers at the time. And they were coming to the Ocoee for like a national slalom event. And I really went to work on my application. And one of the things I did, I was like, I'm going to get this. So I put in all my credentials and all my awards I received. But I contacted guys in the industry like Mark Lyle that I knew that would know the owner on the ownership level.
Sure.
I can't remember. It was Mark Lyle for sure, and there was one or two more. I said, will you call this owner and give me a recommendation? And, you know, for anybody that wants to get a job, do that.
Right.
Get someone on their peer level.
Yeah.
And I got the job. Next thing I know, that first semester, went to Adventure Quest with some of the best kayakers, junior kayakers in the world, and we were in South Africa. 1999, or 98, 99, we were in South Africa. And then that next spring, we went to Adventure Quest, I think, it went to Ecuador.
Okay. And then, but winter, like the winter of 99, 2000, you guys were on the Fuda.
Yeah, no, so I'm wrong then. So it was the
Because
year before.
that's when we met.
It was the year before. So the next year, 1999, we went to the New Zealand World Championships. You're right.
Right.
Went
And
to
then the
World
Fuda that
Championships
spring.
there. And a super cool thing, we had some contenders for World Championship, and Brad Ludden got second in the Worlds, and Ethan Winger got third, and Brenda Kelleher got first in the girls. But we were staying like 90 minutes away from the feature, and Shane Benedict was the head coach, and he was top designer for Perception at the time. And he had a class, and so it was like every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday or something like that. I had to drive. They asked me to. I had a free period. They asked me to drive the kids for half a day to the Full James Wave and take them for training. And that was the coolest thing ever because all the world's best kayakers were there, and I got to take rides. And there's nothing better than, well, as far as a high school teacher in kayaking, there's nothing better than going to one of the coolest waves in New Zealand and filming and getting a few surfs in. So
Yeah.
New Zealand, and then as you said, that next semester we were in Chile, and that's where I met you.
Yeah, on the Fuda. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember like meeting of course I'd known Shane from my time at NOC, but like meeting you, and I knew Whitney, but like I was like, this has got to be the greatest job in the world. Like, this is what I want to do. Like, I'm going to go back to school and finish. And I remember talking to you, and you're like, you got to get a degree in something other than PE. We don't need PE teachers. So that's why I minored in Spanish when I went back to school.
Yeah. Yeah, that was totally, that changed my entire direction and journey in life right there. So.
Yeah, because not long after that, I mean, Adventure Quest kind of folds. We don't need to go into all the reasons why, but it kind of folds. And then two of the teachers from Adventure Quest go off and start their own schools. World Class Kayak Academy comes out of that, and you started Huge Experiences.
Yeah, so actually, while Adventure Quest was still in business, I started some summer camps called Huge Experiences. And I bought a short school bus, and a trailer, and the first year we rented a van, but so we started taking they didn't have any summer camps for the kids, and so we literally had the world's best juniors. So I started telling some of the other staff, I was like, man, these kids need to go on tour because they
Right.
could dominate all these competitions and they could be recruiting more kids. And one of their teachers was like, present it to the owner and he'll do it, right? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, write up a tour, write up how much he needs to pay you each week, write up the cost, and tell him you'll lead it and he'll do it. And I did. I wrote up my own price, and he's like, okay. And I was like, I'll recruit more students while I'm out there. And we did. And so that happened for a year or two, and then the school went under. And when the school went under, a couple of the students asked me if I would train them and continue the high school and start a high school.
Right.
And I thought about it, and so I found they didn't have online schools at the time. It was correspondence schools where they sent you a package. So I found a course. I wasn't a high school. We were Huge Experiences, which is a horrible name for a high school. And so I can't remember the name of that I'm sure it's an online school now, but we got them correspondence packages. It was Austin Rathman and Michael Quiniff.
Yep.
And Laura Nash actually did a gap year with us. That first term was in Ecuador, and they were doing. And so we led them with. Basically, we were like study hall monitors, teaching them how to time manage and do their time.
Right.
Yeah, and then we were training in Ecuador, and then the next semester it grew to like 12 students in Chile. We took them to Chile, and eventually. Achieved acquiring accreditation from a high school. We became, I renamed it from summer camps to New River Academy.
Right.
We started traveling the world and offering the same education. And we had our own accreditation. And that journey, we were in 2002, we had 9 out of 10 kids on the national team, and
Wow.
and a couple of medalists. Pat Keller medaled, and I can't remember her name. So yeah, that was there was around the time you came in. What was happening was I got spread thin. I was doing like 11 weeks of the year. I was doing like the high school and the summer tours, and I continued to get to know you more, and I was like, I got to drop the summer tours. I can't handle it. I was worn thin. And, my free advice that sums it all up is don't ever start a high school. So it was certainly something that I enjoyed, and, I saved up $100,000 from that, and I bought my property in Chile, and I don't ever plan to lose this property. I will always keep it and cherish it. I love this place. I walk by the river every day. I do breathing by the river. Anyway, but we need, fast forward, after a few years of that, we needed a base.
Sure.
I started looking for a base, and I was choosing I looked international. I was like, no, let's keep it over here. So it was Ecuador, Costa Rica, or Chile. And ultimately, I was like, I think I would just enjoy living in Chile more. And there's more sunshine, there's less theft, the economy's stable, and I love the rivers and I love the culture. So really it was where I thought I would enjoy living the most.
Sure.
So I chose Chile. And then I was choosing between Pucon and Food-La-Foo.
Right. Before we get into kind of what you're doing now with Pucon Kayak Retreat, let's go back to some of your personal kayaking days and all the adventures that you've had. Think of your perfect flow. Do you have a perfect flow day, a day that comes to mind that you reflect back on? You're just like, man, that was epic.
Yeah, that's a great question. I had I had a divorce, and I was a pretty broken man at that moment, and going through some challenges with that. And so I was rebuilding. An easy thing is to go start working out. But I started running, the river, my backyard river is called the Rio Trancura. And upriver of us is a rapid, a true big water class 5 that ends in a 12-foot drop with a pretty large hydraulic. And the challenge is that there's a crux move above it, and it's really moving fast. And so you'll see the world's best kayakers using my access, and they'll go up there and lap that because it's real big water training.
Yeah.
And so as I was rebuilding myself, I was broken and fearful and all those things. And so I started, anchoring, feeling love. And I'd go around and I'd say, I love you, Fern, which is my cat. I love you, Forrest, and all these things. And someone told me, it's like, you need to start saying, I love you, David. And so I started anchoring that. And I had these anchors going. And so I started, I would do it, this celebration and anchor, this feeling of love or success or that feeling you get at the bottom of a rapid. You're like, yeah. So I started, this was my anchor for love and success and achievement. And so it was this tapping here. And so then I was like, this rapid's called Mariman. So I started running it. And so I was like, let's start anchoring success before I run the rapid. So before I'd run the rapid, I would either do 3 claps or 3 heart pounds before the rapid. And so I started lapping Mariman. And if you ever want to build confidence, go start lapping a rapid that intimidates you. And because really the first thing, before you even start running it, you got to get good enough. Like the thing there was, if you go upside down on your offside, you gotta have the confidence that you can hit your offside roll as you approach that big waterfall.
Sure.
The water's moving into it so fast. So I was lapping that so much that I was super confident in my skills and working out. And then Casey Jones of Ottawa Kayak School was one of our guides, one of our partner guides. And I was like, I'm going to run dim shits on my birthday. And that's it's a 60-footer waterfall with a solid approach, a must-make boof approach. And he said, you know what, David, as a birthday present, I'm going to film you. And so, I was studying it and had it all worked out in my head. And he gave me a GoPro at the waterfall, and as I walked up to put in the eddy above it, I just turned around the helmet with the GoPro, and I called my line. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to come across on my right side edge, and I'm going to pull a boost stroke. I'm going to land, and then I'm going to move back to the left, and I'm going to be on my left edge on one stroke. And I'm going to hold that down the waterfall and ride that. And I'm going to tuck. And then I'm going to celebrate. And he lined up the video with a lot of people were like, did you say that after? I was like, no, I totally called that before. So it was a really proud moment. And a great, just that whole success and anchoring success and confidence. So yeah, that was that was like one of the coolest moments.
That's really cool. I love the whole story about connecting it to the mental approach and to, kind of maybe down in the dumps and using that to get yourself back out. That's incredible. And, that's what whitewater does for people, right? Like when you're on the water, everything else just disappears. And the more that we're on the water, the more that we're reconnecting with nature and reconnecting with that flow of the river, it can really help you through so many difficult times.
Right.
Yeah. So speaking of difficult times, the opposite of perfect flow, I call flood. What about some times that may have been like an epic crash that was not too fun at the time, but you walked away, shook yourself off, and it's now a good story to tell around the campfire?
Yeah. Well, I've had 4 drownings and survived. And so I'm going to tell the one that I think is most relative to your audience, which was on Little River Canyon on the Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee kind of
Yeah.
Tri-state zone. And the other reason I'm telling that is because it actually has a lesson how I saved myself that I've never heard anyone give. And by the way, because of these incidents I had, I later went in and became a swiftwater rescue instructor and taught many courses on rescue. And there's a couple things. One of my mentors, John Miller, taught me part of this lesson. But anyway, I'm running. There's the waterfall at the beginning is a double drop, and so it drops 10 feet, and then it has a shelf, and then it drops 25 feet. And anybody that knows this from the southeast knows where I'm about to explain. Over on the left, and I hadn't creek boated much real stuff at all. I was going to school in Ridgeland High School in Rossville, Georgia, teaching there at the time. And Blake Turner and I, when it would rain, we would call in a half day off. And we would go kayaking together. And so Blake Turner, all the old school boaters in the Chattanooga know Blake. But I really hadn't ran a lot of stuff. And I was in a free fall LT. And I only weighed like 135 pounds. So it was a huge boat on me. He gave me the line, and right above on the left side of that, there's like this, there's like a block where a kayak could go, and you go off, and you go beside that, and you go out. But if you go next to it, I was warned of somewhere on this desk. I got a foamy boater. That there's a you could go here, you could vertically pin on the back of the waterfall. Well, I did that. For whatever reason, I think what happened was I nudged a rock right above it. It's pretty high water that day or something, but I started back paddling, not knowing you don't back paddle above a waterfall. Lost all my momentum, and that probably ferried me a little bit left. Anyway, I went upside down, or I didn't go upside down. I just hit and stuck. And I was like, oh shit, I'm in the vert pin. And I was just pressed down on my deck. My whole body was down. And so the first thing, and I was underwater. It was, the guys on the bank were right there next to me. There's an overlook right there. And they couldn't even see the red of the free fall. And nothing they could do. And so I'm going to explain a progression because there is a life-saving lesson out of this. I started throwing myself back and forth to try to unjam it. Nothing. And started doing push-ups. And I remember, and I was coaching wrestling, and I was straight out of college. So I was in really, really peak shape.
Sure.
On the fourth or fifth push, I couldn't push anymore. They went lactic. Now I'm stuck on the deck. So I start ripping my hips, and I rip a hip out to the side. But now I'm just down on the deck. And I'm so far down on the deck, and my legs are trapped. And I can't, so I try to reach back up, and I can't go back. You can't go back up because the water's knocking you down.
Right. Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, let's try to break your legs.
Oh.
And, couldn't do that. I was grabbing my legs and pulling. And so they were just locked in. And so, if you go through swiftwater rescue training and hydraulics, as you're coming back into the hydraulic, as everybody knows, you swim into the hydraulic and you catch the water going down, right? And it takes you down deep, and you swim down deep with it, and you flush out way down river instead of recirculating back in. So this is what, and
sure.
So I try that. I can't do it. So here's the unique angle. In wrestling, they teach you how to lock your hands around a person and hold them. And like the strong, you do this, and it's an easy lock to break. If you're ever holding someone from behind and they're trying to get away from you. So if you're ever holding your wife from behind, she's trying to squirm away from you, here's how you do it. This is an easy break, but this lock, if you do this right here, this doesn't break because the nature of the clasp. And that's the strongest lock you can do on a arm lock in wrestling or UFC or whatever.
So you're showing like two hands grasp, like
Yeah.
one hand over the other, not fingers
this,
interlocked.
this is by far your strongest lock.
Yeah.
So I'd never heard of this. It just came to me, and now I'm approaching a minute or something underwater. They said I was under for over a minute. Who knows? So what I did in that state, I locked my hands and created a circle to allow the water to go through my arms.
Yeah.
And I was trying to rip myself out of the boat, and if it broke my legs, it broke my legs.
Right.
And it didn't rip me out of the boat. I became a body lever, and it pried the boat off instead.
Right.
So then we get to the bottom, and I get out, and they're all there to rescue me. And this is the first rapid. And I'm just in my prime. I'm just young and dumb. And they're like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I've been beat down before. I'm probably good. And I just didn't want to wuss out, for a better word. And
right.
I went down the canyon with them. We got to like one of the first scouts. And I got out and I couldn't walk. My leg collapsed.
Oh.
All the tendons or whatever had all been. I had to go to the hospital that night. And I was in crutches for like 2 months. But I went. So the first takeout's 6 miles downriver, and it's a really solid uphill. And then the next one is 12 miles downriver at a bridge. And I couldn't scout, so they would tell me the lines, and I stayed in my boat the whole time. Ran the whole river, and then went to the hospital.
Wow.
So that was, and then, like I said, the reason I told that one is because hopefully there's a takeaway that someone can use there, maybe save my life.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I mean, the power of the water. I mean, it's just, we talk about it all the time. It's the most powerful force in nature, and statistically speaking, kayaking is still really safe, but when things go bad, they go bad quickly.
I can.
Yeah. Wow.
That's those are rare.
Absolutely, yeah. And we've talked about this with other people too. The great thing about the sport is you can get so much thrill and exhilaration from any type of kayaking. You can go down the Hiawassee or the Nantahala, and if that's your speed and that's what gives you adrenaline, then you can have the time of your life. You don't need to go over waterfalls, and but if you want to do that and you want to build up the skills for that, then that's there too.
That's right.
Yeah. Now I want to talk about, since you just talked about, let's eddy out and take a quick break. Do you need a break from the cold of a North American winter? Then let's head south to the best whitewater on earth at Pucon Kayak Retreat. Email me at bflowkayak@gmail.com to learn more about how you can take the ultimate paddling adventure in the heart of Chile. Now let's peel out and head downstream. That experience, and that there's lessons there. Let's talk about some other lessons. Your flow advice. And we always ask people to give advice for two different types of kayakers. One person just learning and starting out, and another two, maybe a more seasoned paddler who's returning to the sport after some time away.
Okay. Great question. So I'm a business owner, Pucon Kayak Retreat owner, and I've guided, instructed for Ottawa Kayak School, NOC, Otter Bar, Rocky Mountain Outdoor Center. So what I think with those beginners, what I was doing, the worst thing possible for you as an instructor is your beginner kayaker walks away and never tries the sport again. So I was always trying to provide them with a progression and get them really them walk away with the kayak bug. They want to continue the sport, and they want to keep progressing, and they want to come back for more. And here's the way I would do it. And so, and I would ask the owners of these kayak schools, are you okay with me introducing them to club boat associations, kayaker clubs? And if they said yes, I would go down this progression. So I would give them the instruction all day and positive encouragement. And then I would say, if you like the sport, the absolute best way to cool off in the summer is to go to your nearby lake and take your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, or your kids and get a kayak and go beat the heat in your kayak and just play in your kayak in your swimming pool, if you got one, or in the local lake. It's a great way to spend time with your kids. So I want to give them the tools for them to progress.
Right.
And really, at this level, I don't want to teach anybody through an entire progression, from start to finish. This is not my thing, but what I want to do is give them the tools and teach them how. It's like, and I would open up the lines like, look, if you need help buying a kayak, I can send you a list of where to buy kayaks, or if you find a kayak, you can write me. It's like, you don't have to pay full retail. Here's how you can get used ones, blah, blah, blah. So I would show them how to get started, go out to the lake, practice. It's like you can find, YouTube beginner kayak lessons, how to roll, how to paddle. Then once you get your roll down, come back, and then let's take you down an intermediate river. Let's take you down your first river. Let's start taking you kayaking again. Or if you want free lessons, in all major cities, there's these club associations that give pool nights all winter and off season. There's places I know, like you go to Chattanooga. Jim Fortune in Chattanooga, who used to be the manager at Rock Creek Down Under, he's probably been giving Lake Chickamauga roll lessons for 40 years on
right.
Tuesday or Wednesday, I can't remember, but yeah, that guy, amazing. And so I would try to give them the resources for them to get through those initial phases economically, and then come back and pay for the NOC lesson or the Ottawa Kayaks lesson. There's just so few people that can afford to get their roll where it needs to be to start paddling rivers. So go on your own. Here's your resources. Here's a Boyd Ruppelt instructional how to roll, or an Eric Bartle instructional. So I gave them the tools, and I would try to, and so I was dangling the carrot. And once you get good enough to do the rolls, and you have your rolls in the lake, let's come back and run a river.
Gotcha.
And I saw success with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the older paddler, more seasoned veteran paddler, stepped away from the sport, now older, coming back to the sport? What advice would you give to them?
I think there's, instead of giving any kind of skills, going, again, the philosophical route, there's, I think, confidence building, and go out and find that. So I have this term called relative class 5. And so your relative class 5 is that which is at the top of your level that pushes your limits. You got a little bit of this going on.
Yeah.
So for me at 47, running dim shits, it was Mariman. And as I started and I kept running it and doing my anchors, I gained more and more confidence. So I would go to that. So you're saying like someone our age may be coming back into the sport?
Yeah, someone's took some time off. I mean, I fit that bill exactly. I'm not saying what advice would you give me necessarily. Obviously I'll take whatever advice you give, but I'm saying someone like me, they're a little bit older. They used to paddle 15, 20 years ago. They stopped because of kids, jobs, geography, and now they got a little bit more time, a little bit more money, and they want to get back into it. Maybe their body doesn't work as much, but they used to be a good paddler back in the day.
Okay. So the relative class 5 is that which excites you and is the top of your skill set.
Love it.
And if you're a beginner and you've given a lot of roll lessons, it might be someone doing the wet exit, because we've seen a lot of people that freak out and they go upside down. That might be that guy's relative class 5.
Right.
And then it might be someone running their very first class 2 rapid. Mm-hmm. All right, so you see the scale.
Sure.
It scales to what is exciting you and which is fearful for you and your skill set. So with that person coming back, the lesson there should be, where's your limit, and what's the rapid that you're, that's at the top of your limit. So let's first work towards what skills you need to run Western Falls. Here's a great example. That's why one of the reasons NLC is so great is it's got that relative class 5 right there for everybody to progress towards. So those guys, it's like, okay, what skills do you really need here? It'd be great if you had a good solid combat roll. All right, check. It'd be good if you had these strokes, and if you want to go off that side of the ledge, you need a boost stroke with your left stroke. All right, let's work on that. And their confidence starts building and building. And remember when I said that Mariman one, I really had to have my offside roll. I had to have it because it was too pushy, and I couldn't afford to miss the roll and go over that waterfall into the hydraulic. So find your limit, which is your goal, and what are the skills you need to go after and accomplish your goal. Go master those. Now run your relative class 5. And then once once you start running it, run it over and over and over and over and build that confidence. Now there's a theme here. Now we get to go back to that carrot. Now let's go to the Ocoee or whatever. The next carrot we get to dangle for you and challenge you with. It's part of the sport. We get to progress.
Right. Yeah. And there's no limit of where you can progress to. I mean, there's always people pushing the boundaries and the limits of what can be done in a kayak.
Right. And I think the biggest mistake there is the fear side of this is push them too early and something bad happens. They have a bad swim and I'm never kayaking again.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's not every day I get to speak with one of the sponsors of this podcast, but I'm doing so now. And one of the sponsored segments is the Pucon Kayak Retreat Pro Flow Hot Tip. And we have the person who came up with the name of this segment here with us. And what I want you to give us the Pro Flow Hot Tip on is, now obviously, and I don't want to take away business here, because if somebody wanted to have an all-inclusive experience, and have everything, accommodations taken care of them, Pucon Kayak Retreat is the place to go. But you and I both have been in situations, and you know a lot of people who maybe they want to do their first international trip. Like I said, definitely the easiest way to go is to go to puconkayakretreat.com and look at all the amazing trips that Dave has in Chile. But if somebody just wanted to go and explore, maybe even not even internationally, they just got their buddies, they got their skills, and they wanted to take off and go explore, what advice would you give to those kayakers who are ready to step up their game with travel and kayaking?
Great question. So I'm just going to... yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
because even if they're coming to you for one of their trips, they might be bringing their own boat and never flown with a boat on an airplane, never packed, kind of travel advice in general.
Yeah, so the great thing about this question is the more you dive into this question as a beginner traveler, the more you realize you need the service of a all-inclusive kayak program.
Sure.
So here's the challenge. You pick a big kayak destination, Rotorua, New Zealand, or Ecuador to Baeza, or Costa Rica to Tana, and you make your big travel plans. If you go down there solo, it's really, and you think you're going to meet local kayakers and they're just going to take you kayaking, they all have jobs and families.
Right.
All the great kayakers have jobs with kayak schools, and it's just not going to work out. There's places like Ecuador, there are usually guides floating around that are on call. Those are all the guides that didn't get jobs, that tried to get jobs with the Small World Adventures and booth sessions, and for whatever reason, they're like, we're not hiring that guy. And they're going to take you down and they're going to charge you guide pay and have a route or have a few kayaks and a truck or be able to, hire a driver and get all the logistics done. So you can do it yourself. That's the budget way. And it's definitely one of those things you get what you pay for.
Sure.
If you're coming down, really I think the best advice is have a crew, have a solid crew.
Yeah.
And then if you really want to save money and do it right, let's say you go to any one of those destinations and you rent a truck for a month and you have a crew of 4. Now you're splitting the cost of that. Let's call that daily rental $100. So you're paying $25 a day to rent that. You either rent your trucks, kayaks from someone, that's all online, or you fly them down yourself, or you buy one in country. So you're covering all your bases. And to be honest, that's a limited grouping because that grouping has to have enough experience. They're providing their own safety and getting the beta from a book or a guidebook or online or something to go to the river. So they have a certain competency. This is really intermediates and beginners don't have this option.
Right.
They are limited to paying for guides and that sort of thing. I get this question all the time. People write me all the time and, hey, can we hire one of your guides? And can we rent kayaks and stay on your property? We will rent the kayaks. We will rent the trucks. But typically, when it's in the season, we need our guides.
Right.
Want to help our guides get more work, and if it's out of season, I'll do it. I'll introduce them. What I won't do is plan your entire budget trip.
Right.
It's just a pain It's just a pain. It's a lot.
Well, let's dovetail now into what I call the current. And if somebody, doesn't want to do I don't know the country, I don't want to just wing it. Obviously some of the most like pro paddlers, they could probably do that. But your girl who's an intermediate to an advanced paddler, maybe they do the Chattooga, the Ocoee comfortably, and they're like, you know what? It's been a dream of mine to go to Chile and paddle. Talk us through what a week at Pucon Kayak Retreat is like and what people can expect to experience when they come and visit you there.
Okay. Yeah, we've really built something special here. The Riverside Activity Center, there's a hot tub with a stairway down to the river. So we do the fire, we call it the Fire and Ice Challenge, hot tub, and go down and get in the cold river. That's part of our trips now. I am, as I told you before this podcast, I just finished the Wim Hof breathing exercise. So I'm going to add that to our trips. I used to lead these Colorado Mountain College raft expedition training programs with the students, and they were writing in their evaluations that their favorite part of the trip was the morning breathing exercises and swimming across the Colorado. So I'm adding that this year. But you show up at the airport. So the whole journey, you register. I'm available answering all the questions, help you buy your ticket. And then we pick you up at the airport. We bring you to the retreat. Appetizers waiting for you. We tip it, if there's time allowing, we'll do a short river run and boat outfitting. If there's not time allowing, we'll have the hot tub fired up and appetizers before dinner. We do appetizers every night, and then we go to dinner and orientation. Day 2, outfit your kayaks, and then go run your first river. It doesn't matter, and that's another reason I chose Pucon. Everybody knows Pucon has some of the best waterfalls in the world, and for the top 5, because all the big names come here and make videos of themselves. No one's watching the great beginner instruction and beginner safety here.
Right.
I would say arguably the best beginner and intermediate sections of rivers in the world for instruction.
Wow.
It's not just river sections, it's the features, as you know. When you're on the Nantahala, you have these great features to develop skills. Mm-hmm. That's where real learning takes place. and we pride ourselves on our instructional. Actually, we partner with a lot of NOC guides.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of our guests come down with some of our signature trip leaders,
Sure.
our partners. NOC, Blue, Haley McKee, Curtis England, Ottawa Kayak School, Casey Jones recommended Aaron Fisher this year. Kirk Edelman, who wrote the guidebook in the Southeast. Boyd Ruppelt, who has a great online instructional program now and an influencer. Katie Newfer, who runs the Okoe Takeover with 150 women. Her boyfriend, Jeremy Bugby. There's more in our Chilean staff. So the instructional is high quality. You're going to start with a morning safety instructional and then go into your warm-up drills to learn the skills that you're going to progress on each day, but also that lowers your tension and nervous. If you go through the same drills every day, especially above your relative class 5, that can be a thing to reduce stress.
Sure.
They run the river. Typically we run one long day on the river, and we come back. There's usually time before dinner and appetizers for hot tub in the river. That's a day. We do Tuesdays and Thursdays where we do a road trip to a longer river. It's a full day. We do a day hike. We do usually there's a hot springs day. There can be additions like the wine tasting, coming out and doing a wine tasting presentation of Chilean wines. We go to Pucon and we do a tour of the town. It's a super touristy town. It's kind of like European ski town meets Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of like souvenir shops and adventure and ski shops and kayak shops and volcano treks, and then there's super cool little cafes and bars, and you know what there's a lot of? Craft ice cream.
Yeah.
We like to take the guests. Everybody loves to go to these ice cream places. It's super cool. But yeah, so our week is a week of progressions and adventure, and it doesn't matter where you are. If you're a beginner, we got you covered. I think our core market is really intermediates and advanced.
Sure.
On the top end, we have a couple of expert level trips that go to the Claro and Pucon Creek week, where they're running just more challenging stuff, and it requires experts.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's paradise on earth, and the best whitewater is for sure right there in Chile. And if anybody's interested and they want to take a trip, you can go on puconkayakretreat.com, or you can email me at bflowkayak@gmail.com, and we can get you in contact with Dave to get a trip set up.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, and we provide the kayak and the lodgings riverside.
It's really all included. It's like a resort for kayakers, and
right.
There's resorts that kayakers stay at throughout the world, but like this is one of the few that's like a resort designed by a kayaker for kayakers right at the river. It's amazing.
Where we really leveled up the last year, we built a yoga dome just for yoga and massages. It ended up for my wedding in April, and it ended up being the dance party. That space, everybody goes in there like, this has become my new favorite space to hang out. Blue would go in there and just play music for hours.
Yeah.
And then the riverside, that whole riverside area is just glorious. You can hang out in hammocks. We got a fire pit and a sado area. There's yoga mats. It's just the hot tub. There's a lot of cool hangout spots on the property that just kind of, and all the dining tables are all family style dining. That's a big theme with us.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do a little activity every night where we check in with all the guests on their we call it 60 seconds, where you describe the best 60 seconds of your day.
Nice.
It's pretty entertaining because there's a lot of stuff a lot of funny stuff that comes out and a lot of celebrations.
Very cool. Well, Dave, you and I have ran a lot of rapids together in person, but do you want to run some virtual rapids with me now?
Yeah, let's go there.
All right, so rapid fire. I'm going to throw out a topic. You got to give me your Mount Rushmore, and then we're going to run one rapid blind. The first one I wanted to go is kayak designs of all time.
Um, Remix. I think few people realize how fast that boat is. I
Okay.
used to race some pretty big names, and every time we'd have the Palgene race, I would always put one of like Jake Greenbaum and Keegan Grady. Both won the Palgene race in I think a remix. I'd throw in one of our remixes, but few people. That boat is fast. It
Okay.
was just a fun boat. Um, I think. Oh, I had these written down. Now I'm hitting a blank. Oh, the project, Wavesport
Mm.
project.
Yeah.
That was so I when I was paddling the project and the X Project X, the I could hear the sirens at the New River Dries, which are
Mm.
some of the most reliable big waves in the United States.
Yep.
And a lot of the boats that came out at that time, they were going shorter and shorter to hit bigger loops.
Right.
And Robert Pearson and Brian Kirk and Jimmy Blakeney and all those West Virginia guys, I remember them pulling the tilt, the Perception tilt, and they had like three big designs, and like the Wavesport X, and they were using all these to put them into that boat. And what that boat pulled off was it could do great loops, but on those big waves on the dries where you could catch giant air, the boats that just went short, they couldn't accelerate. They were just
Right.
sit there or come off. And the Project X pulled off the speed. That was a
Mm.
really good design. Um, the Liquid Logic session, because I was there when I got to, one of the cool things that Adventure Quest was Shane Benedict was designing kayaks, and I
Yeah.
really got to see the industry
Yes.
and got an insider's look at the industry. And my very first semester, actually, before the students arrived, he was designing the Mr. Clean, and he invited me to go to the Ottawa to do a recon trip for the students. But a lot of it was he was mastering that prototype. And
Mm.
so I watched the session being designed start to finish, and then they sponsored me. And one of my back to the highlight moments, I got second in a national rodeo in the session, and that was a super proud moment.
Yeah, that boat was sick. It was definitely toss up between that and the Triple X is like most slicey boat of all time for sure.
Yeah, and I like the Triple X a lot too, but that connection to the design and
Sure.
sponsor was that was a fun boat.
Countries to paddle in.
Well, certainly Chile,
Mm-hmm.
for obvious reasons. I chose Chile, and I told you why I chose Chile earlier, so I won't repeat that part. Um, I've traveled to a lot of places, but honestly, United States has got it all. It's so good.
Yeah.
Um, and I went. I really like New Zealand
Mm-hmm.
a lot. I think New Zealand's a lot like Chile, but Chile the rivers are a little safer. They just don't want
Mm.
to hurt you as bad.
Mm.
Um, and Chile's done a remarkable job of protecting its rivers in Patagonia, and that's a big
Mm.
thing. But I love New Zealand. I love who doesn't love any of the river destinations you go to. Um, I always had a tour, and it was like 12 years in a row. I went to Canada to go to the Ottawa, and you and I both went to the Slave River in the Northwest Territories, and that was super special.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Canada too.
Okay. Kayakers of all time.
So my criteria for the kayakers of all time is a little bit different. I'm basing mine on my personal experiences and
I
kind of
like
the
that.
character.
Yeah.
But I am going to start with who is the kayaker's kayaker, in my opinion, Benny Marr. And other than being a phenomenal kayaker, I just watched a little like Instagram video he made, and he's talking about his awareness of his connection with the river, and it's spiritual. It's remarkably spiritual. But my big compliment to him is, here at the retreat, we have a lot of the pro kayakers come through, and they're making videos and everything when they come to Chile. And I give them free lodging to stay, and I just ask them for a shout out in their videos or whatever, and they can stay as long as they want and just be nice to the clients. So a couple of years ago, he comes in, and I'm like, yeah, move into this room, number 9 or whatever, and we're coming in at like 8 o'clock from the Claro tonight. And I'd love for you to come out to have a beer with the guest if you can. He said, yeah, sure. Well, we don't get in until 11, and he's asleep. And I don't want to bother him. And he totally gets up, gets out of bed, puts his clothes on, and comes out and spends an hour and a half with the guest.
Nice.
Just hanging out, chatting, talking, has a couple beers with them. And he's always had that when he's come through. And if you ever get to hang out with him, you'll see what I'm talking about. If you watch him paddle and his freestyle, and you watch some of his accomplishments, like I said, he's the pro kayaker's kayaker, in my opinion. Everybody talks the same of him. On same level, Bren Orton, always, when he came through, he would stay longer periods here. Benny always would pass through and go to the food and spend a shorter period, but Bren would stay for like a month. And, the Sin crew started making this their spot that they'd hang out. And he'd always ask if he could pitch in on the property, and I just didn't really want to ask the pro kayakers to be mowing my grass and that sort of thing. But we had this beginner. He's kind of beginner / intermediate, but he did a beginner trip with his wife from Canada. And the guides in his group didn't want to take him down the lower train current. It was high water, and for good reason. It was high water. And this guy really wanted to go down. His wife didn't want to. She knew it wasn't for her. And so the guides had said no, and I was like, sorry, I trust their judgment. So he comes to me a couple of days later, and he's like, hey, I talked to Bren, and Bren said he'd take me down. And I'm like, oh, no. He's going to the pro kayakers and asking them to guide him. And so I go to Bren. I'm like, hey, man, sorry about that. You don't have to guide these guys. You don't have to guide my guests. He's like, no. He's like, you've been giving us free lodging for years, helping us out. I absolutely want to do this. He's like, I have to do this. Like I couldn't have convinced him not to. He takes this guest down, spends time with the wife and the guest, and it just made those guys were just like, he is the most amazing person ever. And that's the kind of impact that I hope Benny and Bren have. It's something they didn't have to do.
Right.
Again, same category. Clay Wright came down here, and Clay always, he and I have been traveling beside each other for many years. And with the high school, I used to ask pros if they would come and give an hour-long talk or instructional.
Sure.
Like a volunteer thing. Sometimes I'd pay them, and sometimes I didn't have money, and I'd ask them to do it for free.
Sure.
The champion of that is Clay Wright. And he would always go and hang out with the students and coach them and just teach them and hang out. And then when he came to Chile, him and Stephen Wright were here at the same time. And they were both in this category. Clay came to me and was like, hey, what boats do you need repaired? So he went and welded all the boats, repaired all the back bands, repaired everything on every boat. And he came to me, he's like, hey, you need any dry tops? You got any dry tops leaking or need gasket repairs? He's just staying on the property. Repairs all the dry tops, then the skirts, and then he gets finished with that, and he's like, he's just looking around. You need a river level gauge. Makes a river level gauge. And just, if you go to events, he's always volunteering. He is the true ambassador of the sport.
Yeah.
And, he's helped develop the sport, designs. But to me, it's always been touching those athletes that will spend time with, especially the juniors. But I just gave 2 examples of 2 kayakers that would just share their time with just people, and it means a lot. So those are my Rushmore folks.
I love it. All right, so this rapid we're going to run blind. And so what this means is I give you the topic, but you don't know what I'm going to say. So the topic is going to be rivers of Chile. And so I'm going to throw out a river, and you got to place it 1 through 5. So 1 would be your favorite river, but again, you don't know what's coming next. So if I say a river and you put it number 1, and then I come up with one that you think's better, well, then you already used your number 1.
Yeah. But last week, one of your guys broke that rule and moved them around. So
they did, yeah. Eric Bartle moved them around, I think it was. But I try not to hold my guests to rules that I set forth. It's it's your show. So if you want to break your rules, I'll let you.
Be a Bartle.
All right. So you ready? We're gonna run this rapid blind. The rivers of Chile. The first river I'm gonna throw out, and you got to place it 1 through 5. The Rio Claro.
4.
Okay. The Trancura.
For me, it's 1. And probably no one else, but for me, it's 1.
Okay.
Our backyard.
The Fui.
2.
Espelon.
5.
Futaleufú.
3.
Okay. You may be the only person in the world who says the Futaleufú is third best in its own country, but
yeah, but man, I live on the Rio Trancura.
That's right.
My backyard. I just told you about Mariman, and it's like I got good reason. Futaleufú, amazing. We run trips there.
Right.
But it's not my
well,
backyard.
I mean, I'm going to be.
So my reasons for placing these are different than other people. So
100%. That's why I like it.
I'm doing the rivers that are sustainable for me to paddle.
Yeah.
And so the Fui, when I'm not limping and health, is a regular river for me. So it's very high for me. And the Trancura is a daily river for me, and it's my backyard. Sure. And the Fuda is a once a year.
Right. Yeah.
So what are the rivers that are sustainable for me to enjoy and paddle? Not I don't have to explain all that. You get it.
Yeah. Whenever
I think I probably will be the only person that says that. And I'm not trying
And that's okay, because
I'm not trying to say that the Trancura is a better river than the Fuda.
No, I get it. Yeah. Because whenever I get Pete Gallo this summer is going to flip the script, and I'm going to be the guest on B-Flow Sessions, and I'm going to go ahead and tell people on my Mount Rushmore of favorite rivers is going to be the Nantahala. And people are like, the Nantahala? It's like, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You get it.
So I get it. Yeah, for sure. All right, Dave, final flow. The river god has come down, and they said this is your last day to ever put on a spray skirt. That's the bad news. The good news is you get to pick what river, you get to pick what era of life, and you get to pick your boat and pick your crew.
Okay. So the Nevados is my river. And since I had my accident, you used to ask this question I prepared for, which was, what if you only got to paddle a river one more time? What would it be? And so I'm at that state. I have this, I've been struggling to walk for 3 years. So,
right.
And I haven't kayaked in 2 years. And so we're working on that.
Hmm.
But the Nevados, and the Nevados is super cool for you and everybody in the Southeast, because when you get in there, it feels like the Green River Narrows.
Wow.
And one of the things that people love about the Nevados and the Green River Narrows is when you go up to a waterfall or a drop or rapid, it's not just a straight down and ploop plop. That you're in an eddy over here, and you have to make a move and come back behind this boulder, or you have to go across and boof over at an angle. It's just got all
Yeah.
this great character to it, and
Sure.
they're both equally steep. The Novice has 3 clean 20-footers, but they're not the plop. You have to make a boof, or you have to go off this and turn this way so you don't charge into a wall and wall falls. And then it ends, and it's a spectacular and pretty devoid of undercuts on the upper section. There's only one undercut I know of. And then it ends, and it ends at Dimshits.
Hmm.
Get out and hike, or if you're really coming to run waterfalls, get in a Dimshits. And then
Yeah.
below that, big step up. And that's put on your big pants. And so anybody stepping up to the lower canyon, that's a giant step up from the upper Nevados. I'd call it class 4 plus, really, and if it's at higher
Hmm.
level, class 5.
Hmm.
So the people, anybody, all this. I just love all the students from New River Academy. It's super special
Hmm.
to me. There were a few kids that passed away over the years, not necessarily from kayaking. Stephen Forrester, super young and really just a fantastic person and kayaker. And actually, the only time I got to run the Middle Palgene 70-footer was on my 39th birthday. And so that used to be
Hmm.
a tradition to go run a waterfall on my birthday. And it was Steven that rallied the group. So, and
Hmm.
Nick Simpson passed away as well. Ian, and there's one other student. That might be it. And then, of course, Tino. Tino is one of my students that moved down here and chose to live
Hmm.
in Chile. And he has a beautiful riverside property on the Foo. And I try to go see him every year. He passes through here every year. We just talked earlier today. We're always sharing notes on life and all things philosophical and rivers and economy. We talked that stuff. So yeah, that'd be my crew. Just
Cool.
yeah.
Any particular boat?
Um, for that run, probably the Walk OG. It just cruises
Okay.
over stuff really well. That's a great
Yeah.
design. That's our most popular design. I think I have 5 or 6 of them here.
Oh, cool. Well, Dave, this has been an epic journey down your experience and everything you got going on at Pucon Kayak Retreat. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for your support and belief in me as a young kayaker and as a young guide, of taking a chance on me as your summer coach for Huge Experiences, and now full circle coming back into my life again. I mean, you've always been in my life, but coming back in
Oh
my
no, isn't
kayaking
that
career
cool?
here with being involved with B-Flow sessions.
Oh,
So
you're
thank you
coming
so
down
much
for
for
a
our
kayak.
partnership.
You're coming down for a kayak trip in December, right?
That's the plan. We're working diligently to try to make that happen.
All right. Anybody want to know about kayak trips? Send Brad a private message.
Yep. bflowkayak@gmail.com, and we'll get you lined up to go take a trip with Dave.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad.
Well, thanks again, Dave.
All right. Keep kayaking.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of B-Flow Sessions, where we explore how paddlers find their flow on the water and in life. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show, leave a rating, or share it with a friend. It truly helps us grow the community. And a huge thank you to Pucon Kayak Retreat for sponsoring today's episode. If you're ready for a world-class Chilean whitewater adventure, email me at bflowkayak@gmail.com and I'll help you get dialed in. Until next time, keep finding your flow. Bye.